Can read my lips because I can't sign fast enough. Okay, there is a lot to get through this week. Pop culture news.
Black Panther series coming to Disney Plus.
Black Panther series coming to Disney Plus. Isn't that centering around M'Baku?
I don't know.
Or at least the actor that plays it is the one who is at the focal point of this, right?
They haven't said as far as what's going to be. He's calling the Ryan Coogler signed a 5-year deal with a writer and possibly director.
Nice. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. That will be friggin' amazing. What else?
WandaVision.
Yes. WandaVision was good, and supposedly there is a, quote, Luke Skywalker level reveal. But for WandaVision. But, yeah. If it's what happens in the comics, it's going to be mind-blowing. We're not entirely sure how they're going to do that, but it will be mind-blowing. What else? Any other pop culture news before we jump into this? I can't think of much else.
Unless you're a Pacific Rim fan, the animated series starts next month.
Yeah.
Fans of Guardians of the Galaxy, the roller coaster is still on its way to the game.
That's good. The roller coaster coming. It was nice watching Reddit punch up billionaires in the face this week. That was nice. Hope everyone got in on that. If not, well, you could still buy AMC and hope it goes up. Let's get into this. First book, Tom Taylor, Derek Robertson with Diego Rodriguez, Hellblazer, Rise and Fall. Now, I have said that I thought the Hellblazer that was currently running at the time, I think it was Spurrier who was doing it. I really liked that Hellblazer. It went 12 issues, and it was one of my more favorite runs for Hellblazer. Then again, anything that comes after that awful Rebirth run is going to be good. I'm trying to fix Twitch right now. Twitch has got just the weirdest damn angle. Sorry, Twitch. Give me a second, Twitch. Nope. Oh, dang it. Hang on, guys. Give me 1 second. I can't get right here. Need to sort myself out. Okay, Twitch is kind of better, kind of at a weird angle still. All right, sorry, Twitch. But I have said that I liked that other Hellblazer a lot better, but this was a 3-issue miniseries on the Black Label, and it centered around them investigating why there were people being killed that were growing angel wings. We finally got the answer, and it's amazing. This is exactly how I want John Constantine to be written. It's such a good, they've just captured the character so well. And go figure, it's Tom Taylor. We all kind of knew he was going to do good with this run, but as far as endings go, this is a beautiful Hellblazer ending with plenty of twists and turns. And I did not see it coming. The way it ended, I didn't see it happening that way, and I'm kind of blown away by that. So don't skip that this week, whatever you do. Next is Will Goz, Kumar, and Ferraro Jr., and we're talking about Man-Bat. His murderous meltdown begins. Don't you hate it when you're a Man-Bat in Gotham City and another bat sort of notices?
Female bat or
No.
male bat?
It would be a Batman. So I mean, I guess it makes sense. If you remember the animated series, the very first episode, Kevin Conroy was dealing with Mad Bat. So it makes sense. Is it a particularly great story? It's okay at best. It's kind of like Mad Bat's roots, his origin, so to speak. And it's all right. I can't say I really want to know that much more about, what's going on with this character. It's okay. The art was really good, but if you know Kirk, you sort of know what's going on here, and it's okay. Nothing we really haven't seen before, though. That's probably the big takeaway there. Next is Wonder Woman Jones Belair, and this is the future state Wonder Woman. Now, I really, really, really love the art. And I actually liked the first issue too, and I got online to find that a lot of people online didn't seem to like the first issue of Future State Wonder Woman. And I'm not entirely sure why. Some people said that she's just a little too reckless, but that's kind of what I want in a Wonder Woman, you know? And I actually got a kick out of her just sort of like just wrecking stuff. Like she tries to go through a turnstile in that first issue and just like rips it apart. She doesn't quite understand the concept of turnstiles. And I don't know. I like getting back to the Wonder Woman roots of punch first, ask questions later. It feels right to me. So I love Yara Flor, and I had a really, really good time with this. And although I don't think this is the end, do we get one more issue, or is this the last issue?
Last one.
Oh, it is the last one.
Still got Superman, Wonder Woman 2, and Justice.
Well, bummer. The art is amazing. The art is so ridiculously good in this these couple of issues of Future State Wonder Woman. The storyline, pretty good. Wasn't bored. Other people, your mileage may vary apparently, because other people really didn't seem to like the character. Meanwhile, I loved her. I loved everything about her. So I don't know. Next is Future State Swamp Things. This is V, Perkins, and Chung. It's an apocalyptic story, but told from the plants, kind of. Swamp Thing, mankind has sort of vanished, and Swamp Thing has decided to build his own species of plant humanoids, and they're kind of awesome. And the end of this was kind of awesome. It was a tearjerker, I'm gonna say. When the end came, it was brutal and beautiful, and it kind of makes sense for Swamp Thing to do this sort of thing, but it also kind of doesn't. I don't know. I wasn't fully committed to how things ended, but that doesn't mean that I didn't like the ending. It was a tearjerker for sure. A really, really kind of wild ride. So just a couple of issues, and I felt like I'd read a whole graphic novel. So this Swamp Thing it was nice. It was well done. But again, most people who know me know that I'm a giant Swampy fanboy, so you're going to have to take my opinion with a grain of salt. Hi, Carl! Haven't seen you in a minute. We should come back, Carl! We miss you, buddy. Next is Lewis, Easton, Timms, Hamner, Delandro, Eltab, that name always messes me up, Martin, and Louise. And we're talking about Superman of Metropolis. Now, last issue, I didn't like it very much at all. I didn't like Jonathan Kent's look. It really just felt like it was like, oh, now I'm fighting my cousin. Now my cousin's fighting me. Now I'm fighting my cousin again. Oh, by the way, Metropolis is shrunk. Oh, like there was a lot of weirdness in it. I'm happy to say that I actually had a pretty good time with this issue. It wraps things up sort of nicely. Yes, there is like at times it feels like there's almost too much action, which is weird for me to say. But I wasn't bored with this issue, and it didn't seem like it was quite as much of a victim as just a really strange storyline that first one was. The second story, the Mr. Miracle story, is amazing, like ridiculously good. The ending was great. The art, again, just blew me away, and I honestly feel like that Mr. Miracle story is totally worth buying, like cover price. And the Guardian story, I don't much care for the Guardian, and yet found myself kind of interested in the second part of his story. So good showing. I will say, oddly enough, I'm going to say it again, but the Superman story, Superman of Metropolis story, felt like the weakest story out of this comic. But it's not to say it wasn't good. They were all kind of good. It's just weird. I found a Guardian comic I actually kind of liked. So, well, the end of days is definitely here. Next is Ridley. Oh, God, Ridley's writing this. That's why I'm always like, it's good.
Doing the other history of the DC universe, too.
Oh, yeah, Guardians in that one, too. Yeah. Maybe that's why I like the Guardian story, because I read that and I was like, oh, I didn't know all of this.
Him and
Bumblebee.
Story as when they came, that was
yeah, it was a good story. Ridley, Thomas, Jenkins, Braga, Kumar, Herbert, Fernandez, Bonvillain, Belair, Elta. Man, there's a lot of people on this. Now, okay, we need to talk about it. Good old Jace Fox. Jace Fox, formerly known as Tim Fox, right? Fox.
Yeah.
He is now the current Batman in Future State, and he's kind of awesome. Like, I like the way he handles things. My only complaint was in the Future State Justice League, he sort of left Far Sector to investigate and was like, I'm just dipping out, which was weird for anyone wearing the Batman mantle to shy away from detective work. He seems to like a bit more of the action, and I can't say I can blame him for that. But I like the way he handles things, and I'm having a good time with the story. Now, that said, I'm going to preface this just like the Superman book. That story was pretty good. The better of the story is the one that centers around Duke Thomas. Now, I am a giant Duke Thomas fanboy. I don't deny it. But the Signal's kind of awesome. And seeing him paired up with the Outsiders. What do we got going on in this story? We can't spoil what happens with Black Lightning, but we could talk about the first. Black Lightning is literal lightning. Like he has been cursed by some kind of thing and become actual lightning. Meanwhile, Katana's in place. So really, we've got most of the Outsiders team, but we get an absolute badass scene with Duke Thomas. And I showed it to Cam, and Cam like exploded. Was it not great? It was great. So don't skip this comic for that reason alone. The third story centers around, well, Arkham Knights, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't give a crap about that story in any way, shape, or form. If you want to read it, great. I reached the end of it and I was like, So 2 good stories. One, man, you can kind of throw away story, but this comic is definitely worth the price. Next is Phillips, DeMio, Infante, and Bonvillain. I never know if it's Bonvillain or Bonvillain or something. I'm probably pronouncing it
I thought I was hearing you say Bonvillain. I was like, that's dope.
it's such a cool name, but I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. At any rate, we're talking about Harley Quinn, Future State. Now, again, this is another book that when I read the first Future State, I was like, whoa, this feels like manga. It felt like a kind of an Americanized manga, but there wasn't enough action, and I didn't give a crap about the storyline. So I was like, it's okay. It's not that great. I will say it's completely redeemed itself because this one centers around, well, Jonathan Crane, so Scarecrow, and Harley trying to get to the bottom of something that seems to involve, well, if you can't tell from the cover, Black Mask. And it was awesome. I reached the end of this story and was like, wow, I would read more of this. So again, weird to say, but the first didn't hook me. The second one I thought was outstanding. And the art is really why you'd buy this book because, man, they're doing something really wicked and cool with the art that I like. So, this is another one we will have on our shelves if you want. Now, we need to talk about this next book, and I'm most excited about this next book. So if you're watching us right now, I'm going to gush for a minute, and I'm going to give you some lore about DC's best punches. So in my opinion, there are 3 best punches that we can always write home about. One of them, it's not really that it's the best, it's just the most known and probably world-shattering, and that is the Retcon Punch by Superboy Prime that brought Jason Todd back to life. Wait, was it Jason Todd? Yeah, it was Jason Todd. Jason Todd. So I don't know that it's the best. It's just one of the most world-shattering punches. Then there is a punch from Justice League 25 of the Snyder run that is, I'm not kidding, when Superman threw this punch, it's a Superman punch, but you look at the panel and there is Superboy being Jonathan Kent, and there is his dad below him. It is a 3-generation punch that literally cracks like most of North America in this alternate reality. And if you haven't seen this punch, it is just the best damn picture and the best damn punch I've seen in a long time. So that, in my opinion, is the second best punch of the DC universe. But no, I'm going to rate that one the first. I'm going to rate the Superboy Prime one the third because I don't think it's the best. It's just a world-shattering and a most well-known punch. I'm going to give this one the second, maybe the first. Like, it might be my favorite punch. It's like neck and neck. What I'm going to tell you is this Far Sector run is amazing. Jamal Campbell has knocked it out of the park. The art is like the best thing you could ever put in front of your face. And I'm not kidding. It's the best art ever. I love everything Jamal Campbell does. But N.K. Jemisin has written this amazing story that centers around these 3 sci-fi like species having to live together and get along, so they've turned off their emotions, and that's created all types of problems. And in this issue, she's kind of investigating people that have been kidnapped and forcefully like been forced to turn off their emotions to like create stuff, to just create emotional works of art and other stuff. So she's a little pissed, and she throws this punch in this issue. Now this is a little bit spoilery, but I'm going to tell you, this punch is probably it's like neck and neck. It's either my first or my second favorite DC punch that I've ever seen. It is a literal like Far Sector barrel roll that when it hits is just this explosion of green willpower. And it was so beautifully drawn and inked, and I loved it. So go get Far Sector. That reason alone, go get Far Sector and just turn to this page and see what that punch looks like, because it's either my first or my second favorite punch in the DC universe. It's just a wicked slam. Go snatch it up and see what I mean. Next, we're going to talk about Vieri, Peterson, and Ataya, and this is the Flash. Now, I hated the first issue. Why did I hate the first issue? Because they keep doing my man Wally West dirty, and I'm so tired of them like making him into the bad guy or the problem or Wally. Every time he gets a redemption story, he gets two times where he's villainized, it feels like. Okay, so setting that aside and saying that I didn't like the first story, even though I really liked the art, what do we get in the second story? An absolute badass story that took me by surprise. And what the Flash does in this felt very reminiscent of. Do you remember? I keep bringing this up, but there's a Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it's Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And I can't remember the gal's name, but she like straps on all this stuff that her other friends have used.
Dream Warriors.
What?
Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors. She straps on all this stuff that her friends have used to fight Freddy, and goes to war with Freddy. That's the feel I got from this, because we literally get to see Flash sort of strapping on the Rogues Gallery stuff, and it was kind of awesome and not something we see ever. I can't remember a time that I've seen that. Maybe he's done it before, but it was badass. And so a little spoilery, I'm sorry, but you absolutely need to see this issue. And it ends, it's another one of those that the ending is kind of a tearjerker, but it was a good ending. So, okay, didn't like the first Future State Flash, love the second one. So we'll have it if you want to jump in on it. Next is Alyssa Wong, Andy Tong, and Rachel Rosenberg. And I was a little confused by this because we just finished a Shang-Chi run that I really loved, that miniseries that just happened.
Last week.
Yeah, it was last week. It ended last week. It was awesome. I had a good time with it. So I was confused as to why they'd start another one like right after. And it turns out like they'd meant to space them a year apart, but they'd opened it late because of COVID. So we just got another start of a Shang-Chi story. And it's good. It's really, really good. It's fun. It had a couple twists and turns. I will say it's not as funny as the last run, which I was really enjoying the comedy of that last one. But this is a really, really good story, a good ending. And as far as comics go, I was not bored at all. But really, I don't know any Shang-Chi stories that don't have a lot of action. Can you name one? I can't think of any. It's like that's his whole shtick, is just tons and tons of like kung fu and action. So they're always fun. So yeah, it's good. Come get it. Next is Indolfo. What is this name? Go4? Or is that supposed to be a Y? Maybe his name is Goy? Brocardo and Nocenzio. Man, what a weird font for a cover. But okay. Yes. This is, and well, it's like takes place in the future, and stop me if you've heard this one. I know you've heard this one before. An apocalyptic event or a cataclysmic event has occurred, and mankind is like, living and sort of reflecting on that event. And then something more cataclysmic happened. Yeah, it's kind of tropey. But that's not to say I was bored. I actually had a really good time with this, and the art was good too. It's sort of something we've seen before. It's just kind of in a different coat, I guess you could say. I'm going to say that one, this is Andolfo, so the art is really, really cool. And two, like, even though this sort of story and you've sort of seen it in another form before, you'll probably have a pretty good time with it. Anything with Mirko Andolfo's name on it, it tends to be pretty good. So it will have it here if you want to come pick it up. It's kind of cool. I'd say give it another issue before I jumped in on that. Like maybe go pick it up, thumb through it, see if it sounds like your jam. Then go pick up the second issue and then really commit before you like sub to it. It's not Mercy good. That's all I'm gonna say. It's good. It's not Mercy good. Elliot Kalan and Andrea Moody, and this is Maniac of New York. This story, we can't talk about a first issue without talking a little bit spoilery. It centers around a maniac that like started out killing people in Times Square, still hasn't been caught. And well, okay, let's talk about this. He uses a machete and he wears a hockey mask with blood on it. At least I think it's a hockey mask. This is, you know who this is, Yogi? Uses a machete in New York and wears a hockey mask. And
Jason? Jason Voorhees?
it feels like Jason Voorhees. It's not Jason Voorhees.
Oh, that's a true story.
This is?
Yeah.
There was a guy roaming around wearing a hockey mask and like slashing people?
I thought that one was based off a true story.
Killed 200 people on the subway?
Oh, maybe not.
I don't think this is based on a true story.
I might just be.
Oh man, like and like comes face to face with cops and somehow gets out of it. No, I don't think this is a true story. So the artist is clearly influenced by Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th slasher films. So the art was pretty good. Did I say the artist? The writer. I meant the writer. The art was pretty good, and it has that nice watercolory feel, sort of digitized too, that I tend to like. And it was a pretty good horror flick. But I'm gonna tell you, there's not a lot of tension here. It does feel like Friday the 13th if Jason was in New York, but it's not super tense. Like I'm not attached to any of these characters. But it's a pretty good story so far, and there's a detective element to it. So I'm gonna say wait one more issue before you fully commit. Maybe go pick it up off the shelf, thumb through it, see if it sounds like your jam, just like the last book. But don't sub quite just yet. Give it one more issue. But pretty good. As far as horror comic come this week, that's pretty much what we got. We don't have too much else except for Immortal Hulk, which is always the best horror comic on the show.
That is our pick for the week.
Next is Robert Kirkman and Sam Neill. I can't remember Sam Neill's first name. Do you remember? And Wilson and what? I can't read everyone's names. They've done this really cool effect with this cover, but it's gone over like the names. This is Firepower. Firepower is, well, it's a dash of ninjas and Street Fighter. That's what it is. What if Ken Masters had a family and didn't tell his family he could throw fireballs and was being hunted by ninjas? That's pretty much Firepower. Now, is it bad? No, hell no. Kirkman writes such a good story, and the art is really, really good. Like, I'm never bored with this art. It always feels fresh when I look at it. There's a lot of twists and turns and a lot of action, and really you're just sort of waiting for the main character to throw fireballs because he talks about you only throw them like 2 or 3, I think. So I don't know. Maybe it's not Street Fighter 2. Maybe Street Fighter 1, where you can only throw 2 fireballs per round.
The warm-up, yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's a good story. Kirkman's sort of knocked it out of the park, and I don't know anyone that subscribes to Firepower and is like, I'm bored. Like, that doesn't happen. So if you want to jump in, we will have it on our shelves. Next is Aaron Gronbeck, McQueva, and Bonvillain. And this is Return of the Valkyries to save the soul of Sentry. Now. There wasn't a lot of Sentry in this, even though it says to save the soul of Sentry. But what we do get is we do get the new cast of Valkyries, including one that I'm kind of thinking she's an old Valkyrie that I just don't know that well. There's Brunhild, and then there's this other gal that they're putting a lot of backstory to that I really, really like. So I was intrigued. It's kind of weird because I don't know the Valkyrie characters as well as I probably should. And Danny's in this as well. Danny, what? No, not Danny Rand. Danny Moon, the mutant.
Moonstar?
Yeah, Danny Moonstar. Thank you. There's so many names to juggle around. Sometimes I get a little confused. Brain damage. Go figure. But they're dealing with the King in Black, and more importantly, like Noah kind of wants to get Sentry's soul, or at least some darkness wants to get Sentry's soul, and that's a problem because Sentry is one of the most powerful people in the Marvel universe. So new Valkyrie team gets formed, and I like them quite a bit. I want to know more, but I've really loved the Jane Foster Valkyrie stuff. So I think that was my jumping off point with the Valkyrie stuff. So I'm having a good time with it. Next is a book that kind of knocked my socks off and was almost my pick of the week. Pretty darn close to my pick of the week. And this is Avengers Mech Strike. This is McKay, Magno, and Guru Effects. And wow, okay. So what I will tell you is the art at times, it almost felt a bit too gritty for me at times. More than I want an Avengers comic. It felt almost like throwback art at times. Like it was like I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But it didn't feel as like modern as what I'm used to these days. But I wasn't disappointed. I had a really good time with it. And the storyline was awesome. The dialogue was hysterical. At one point, I think Spider-Man says that Avengers Team Spider Squad is moving in, and Black Widow's like, we're not calling ourselves that. I'm not doing that. But what are you getting here? Well, I'm going to tell you flat out. This is essentially, what if the Avengers had sort of Power Ranger type Zords and we're going to fight like giant kaiju? That's what you're getting here. And yeah, there's a couple of excuses for it that sort of work, but it's fun. Like I was laughing multiple times. I just had a really good time with it. Again, me being an art snob that I am, I was like, oh, I don't know about this art, and still was like, I love this book. So don't skip it. It's almost my pick of the week. It's like, it's right there. It's right there. It's right there. Why are you hurt?
There's two other titles that are usually.
Well, one of them is definitely the pick of the week.
That's Marvel.
No, maybe. I'm not gonna spoil it. Okay. Next is Fear Case, and this is I have to reread this. I really like the art because I don't know who did the art. It's Matt Kent, Tyler Hillary Jenkins. The art, I don't know. It felt like Dennis Cowan again at times. You know, every time I see art where I'm like that looks like Dennis Cowan style, just slightly. I'm always like intrigued by it. The storyline's a little weird. It deals with a cursed object and a woman that kills her husband, who's not a particularly good dude so far that we think. But there's a little bit of mystery there. It's kind of a murder mystery crossed with some paranormal. And I wasn't bored. I wanted to know more. Now, you have to kind of like those detective books to sort of get it. And you have to kind of like that style of art. So I would say, again, this is one you need to pick it up off the shelf, thumb through it, decide if you like it. I thought it was pretty darn good and wanted to know more. It felt like, what was that detective story that was on HBO? It involved like them tracking like a serial killer. I'm trying to remember. The first one had like, didn't it have the dude that was in Dazed and Confused?
Oh, I have no idea.
All right. Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
That's who it was. I had Matthew McConaughey in it. I can't remember the name of the story, but that's what it felt like. If you know what I'm talking about, please just remind me in the comments. I can't for the life of me. These days, my memory is just shot. This is Bellido, McLean, Bernard, De La Cruz, and Dylan. This is Lady Death Blasphemy Anthem. I got to tell you, Lady Death has been around for, well, I don't know, the 90s. So 30 years. And 30 years? Has it been 30 years or 20 years? 30 years, damn. So there's a lot of lore that I don't know because I've never really been that into Lady Death. And I got to tell you, every time I pick up these books, it just feels like an excuse to just sort of have pretty gals running around in like thongs. Okay. You get kind of a supernatural story in here that at times it doesn't really feel like my jam, and I don't know why. I've never really been into it, but there's a lot of characters in this that I know that they have been referenced over the last 30 years that I don't know all that well. I know some of them, but only because I was a little bit into Evil Ernie. So I think Evil Ernie crossed over with her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But it's never really been my jam. The art is really good, but it's stuff that I would blush if I was reading in public. It's not. it gets a little risque.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have that. If that's your jam. Next is Williams, Baldion, and Silva, and X Factor. God, there is so much good with this X Factor run. I've really loved it. There's not enough subscribers on this, and I don't know why, but I love all these characters, and I'm kind of stuck on their soap opera. Yeah, it's X Factor, and there's Polaris, and anytime you have Polaris and Dakin on the same team, you know it's a lot of Type A personalities that are going to clash. But I've loved it. This is like it to me at times. It feels almost like Archie, but with X-Men, because they have all these like relationships and squabbles, and there's some back and forth, and then oh hey, there's this big killer thing that's attacking, but then we're gonna deal with this other thing. So 7 issues deep, and I'm really enjoying it. It's like my guilty pleasure of all the X books. This one's no different. The art is really good, really good. Like I've loved this art since the first issue, and nothing's changed here. I will say that there's a couple speedsters in this that get into an argument, not an argument, a discussion, and one is clearly jealous of the speed of the other one. He's like, "How fast you go, man? Wait a minute, that's faster than the speed of light. Like, what are you doing, man?" Like it's kind of cool to see. So go pick that up, check it out. I need more people to read X Factor because it's a good brand that doesn't seem to have enough subs. Next is Bowen McCurdy and Caitlin Mosto, and we're talking about Spectre Inspectors. Who came up with that name? Who came up with that name? Spectre. They were like, I've got it. We're going to tell a story about a ghost hunting team, and Spectre Inspector. What a goofy ass name. Anyways, what do you get here? Well, you get that boom style of art that, to me, I like the art, but I gotta tell you, I think it's aimed at like tweens. I think it's more aimed at tweens. It's the very Lumberjane style of art, but that's not to say I didn't like it. I honestly love these kind of books. Boom is a really fun company these days, and this one we have to talk a little bit spoilery about it because it's the first issue. There's no way to talk about it without spoiling a little bit, but it's about a paranormal team that sort of goes to haunted places and winds up taking something with them that they probably will regret. So yeah, it was kind of cool. There's some fun back and forth. There's a lot of character building here. Not a lot of action, but I didn't really expect it from this story. But I want to know where this is going. So I'm going to go ahead and say that as far as like indie books this week, oh no, I can't pick this one. It's a close second. I actually had a really good time with this. So don't skip it. It's pretty fun. Boombox and Boom are always like pulling out weird stuff that I wind up digging. Next is Scotty Young, Humberto Ramos, and Edgar Delgado, and this is Strange Academy. And it's Doctor Strange decided to run his own Hogwarts, and he's got like all the magic characters from all around the Marvel universe, to include Brother Voodoo, who's one of my favorite characters, and Agatha Harkness, who we haven't seen her in a minute, but she's secretly on a certain TV show that's on right now. So I didn't see her in the first issues, yet somehow she's teaching a classroom here. So I kind of wondered if they were just like
Adding her in.
shooing her in because they're like, oh, people are going to know who she is soon. But it's good. The last issue sort of wrapped up a storyline where a couple of the kids went missing and they were kidnapped in an evil swamp. And one of them died and came back to life in the last issue. And this picks up from there. And I love these kids. I didn't think that I would like this class as much as I did. I didn't know them, and there's a lot of these characters. And so there's just a lot of like moving parts. So you don't really like. A good example is what's that DC comic on the shelf that Legion of Superheroes? There's so many moving parts, and I don't know all those characters, and I tend to get confused. This has a lot of the similar issue, but the characters are so much fun that I'm just hooked. And now I know these characters, and I really like this class of characters. They're fun. I love the teachers because those are all my favorite magic users from the Marvel universe. And I'm just having a great time with Strange Academy. So don't skip it. Another book that was almost my pick of the week. Okay. So this book, again, another book that is almost my pick of the week. And there's reasons that my pick of the week is going to be what it is. You probably know why. There's a certain event going. But this is Jerry Dugan, Ross, and Lopez, and we're talking about Marauders. Now, I have loved every single second of this Marauders run, and this is no different. And again, a little bit of spoilery, but the beginning of this opens with Kate Pryde like standing on the deck of her ship, and she's like, so there's symbiote dragons everywhere, and this all stems from Venom. Like, why can't Spider-Man just rein in his guys? Like, what is going on here?
It's true.
I loved it. But more importantly, you get an exchange where Pyro calls out Bishop in that same scene where he's like, oh, you just love talking to cops, don't you? When he mentions X-Force. So the humor is so good. And the number of times I laughed, like reading this issue of Marauders was like, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 times. Like, the art is great. The story was great. I kind of liked how the mutants opted to handle things. And the ending of this was pretty touching, with a rather touching scene between Magneto and some humans. Right? I'm going to let you read it and find out, but you really can't skip that because it shows some serious character growth in Magneto. So it's good. It's good. But again, Jerry Dugan, he doesn't write stuff that I ever dislike, it seems like. Next is a book I think everyone should check out. Like, this is Rhonda Pattinson, Jody Nishijima, and this is Jennika 2, but it's the 4th issue. Now, these Jennika comics, they were okay. The first one run kind of established her as a character. She likes to go off on her own. The second one sort of had this, the beginning of this has been a weird drug-affected mutant town and was like overcharging mutants and stuff, and she had to get to the bottom of it. I didn't much care for that storyline. But when Jennika goes off on her own and like tackles stuff and handles it, it has a very sort of Leo and Raph feel from the original comics when they go off on their own. Those two characters going off on their own, that's what Jennika feels like when she does stuff. She tackles it, she does it amazing, and it feels proper and exactly like the OG Ninja Turtle series, except with Jennika. So I'm loving this stuff. It's finally picked up to the point where I loved it. The first 3 issues, they're okay. This one, outstanding. Outstanding. Don't skip it. Don't skip it. Almost my pick of the week for indies. Almost. It's like right there. Here's my indie pick of the week. Boer, Zucker, A Stone, Endworld, and that is Canto 2. And I don't know what it is about these Canto books. The art is really, really awesome. The writer and artist seem to really like the Ninja Turtles. So at times it sort of feels like, you know, they're referencing sort of, I don't know, I don't know, you could call it chivalry with the Ninja Turtles, but their code of honor at times. But they're doing it with a Clockwork Knight. And it's like a fairy tale setting, and the Clockwork Knights all run down, and they only have a certain amount of time, so they got to do what they can with it. But I love the way they set this up. There's just enough magic and just enough story that just it makes it feel wholesome and fun. So I had a good time with this Canto issue, and I'm going to tell you that Canto 2, issue number 5, this was my pick of the week for indies. So I loved it. Go pick it up. Next is Aaron, Marsica, and Curiel. And, you know, I'm so confused by this. Earth's Mightiest Avengers, the Phoenix Force fight, where we have all the Avengers sort of sequestered and fighting themselves and other heroes across the DC universe to see who's going to wield the Phoenix Force. And each one of them is like, this is really a really bad and dangerous idea because the Phoenix Force is pretty damn hard to control. And, you know, if mutants can't do it, maybe it should be left alone, but they can't. The Phoenix Force is sort of forcing them to fight gladiatorial battles. And, you know, it's nothing we haven't seen before, right? Like, we've seen it before. Now, we do get to see a bunch of characters powered up with the Phoenix Force, which is cool. And I'm not bored. I will tell you that. Jason Aaron writes dialogue and story so well, so I'm not bored by it. And I'm not having a bad time with it. Plus, there was a really, really dope Namor monologue at the beginning of this book that it kind of like made my jaw drop with how awesome it was. So that reason alone is worth the price of this book. But I'm just going to tell you, during King in Black, we have the Avengers comic doing Phoenix stuff. That's weird to me. I don't know. I kind of want Avengers King in Black going on. Yeah, they're in the other books, but I kind of want them dealing with it too. But okay. That's what's going on. Next is Wells, Segovia, and Curiel, and we're talking about, well, in my opinion, the weakest of all the X books on the shelf. That's Hellions. I haven't really had the best time with this team. It's a weird team, and it's okay. It's kind of fun. This issue, though, was hysterical. I loved every second of it. I laughed, again, 2 or 3 times. Like, what do you think the Hellions team thinks when Mr. Sinister gets kidnapped and or killed? You think they're excited to go rescue their own? No. And the way the dialogue that happens there is just damn hysterical. There's a lot more to this. Watching Mr. Sinister get bested is funny. Masterminds in play. There's just, and the back and forth between the Hellions team. They're the most awkward and dysfunctional of the X teams that I would never put together in a million billion years. And yet this issue, it was really fun. I had a good time. So if you've been waiting to jump in on Hellions, this is it. This is it. Like, I would say jump in on this book because the rest of them were okay. They weren't great. This one's pretty darn good. Next is Maguire, Flaviano, and Guara and Renzi. And this is Gwenom versus Carnage. And yeah, okay. We have the Carnage symbiote. Well, it's not really the Carnage symbiote, is it? It's just sort of Mary Jane calling herself Carnage and doing the Carnage symbiote like look, but not quite. And meanwhile, she's fighting. Well, it's Gwenom, but it's Gwen Stacy. Her symbiote. Whenever things go really sour, her symbiote suit turns into Gwenom. So it's kind of an excuse for a fight. It's been sort of fun. The action's good. I'm definitely not bored with the action. The art is good. I have nothing to complain about that. It's sort of weird, and it just, I don't know, the dialogue goes back and forth, and it just feels like an excuse to pair these two up to fight. That's all I'm going to say. So it's an okay book, not the best of the King in Black, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that I'm giving Maguire any disrespect here. She tends to write a pretty awesome story most of the time. It just feels like what did you think of the first issue, Cam?
It was cool.
It was cool, but didn't it just feel like an excuse to have that fight happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There wasn't a lot of depth there. It was like, let's just have them fight. So it's okay. I want to know if Mary Jane's gonna forever have a symbiote after this. The Mary Jane of the Ultimates universe, right? Not the Ultimates universe. The Spider-Gwen universe that she's sort of moonlighting between. Probably not. Next is Simon Spurrier and Jesus Saez, and we're talking about Black Knight. Now, let's talk the art first. The art is outstanding. It's brilliant. It's amazing. It's Jesus Saez, and I love everything he does. The storyline it's okay. Black Knight is kind of a hokey character. He got kicked off the Avengers at one point for being a little too violent. His take on it is that he was being a little too questing. That's his take on it. He's kind of comic relief at times. He's not my favorite hero, but what I will tell you is that you're going to get Arrow and you're going to get Swordmaster in this. And I had a really good time with those characters, even if I wasn't really invested in Black Knight. So if Black Knight is your jam, yeah, have at it. This is definitely your book. He's funny. He's just not really my kind of jam. So it was okay. Next is Rick and Morty Worlds Apart. This is Trujillo, Flex Williams, Ido, and Crank. And this centers around the Slut Dragons. That's what they're called, the Slut Dragons. Rick has a complaint where he says he doesn't do repeats and just sort of dips out and leaves, oddly enough, Morty and what's the dad's name again? Jerry's dad. So Jerry's dad is in
So
this.
Morty's
Other grandpa is involved in this. So it was. I have not liked most of the Rick and Morty comics, except Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons, which is the best damn Rick and Morty comic there is. But this one was awesome. I laughed multiple times. The art, well, it's the same art as the show, so you know what you're getting. And it's fun and went in a direction I didn't quite expect. So yeah, come pick this up. If you need a Rick and Morty comic in your life, this is it. In the absence of the Rick and Morty D&D. We should petition them and demand that we get a Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons like every year. Every single year. I want it on the TV show too. In fact, an entire season of Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons. I would be totally okay with that. Oh God. Next is Hawkins, Forte, Ianello, Pontes, and Birch. And this is Devil's Dominion. Now this is a weird comic. It centers around demons, demonic possession, and a gal who sort of deals with them. And there is a little bit of intrigue and back and forth. The art is it's pretty good. It just at times it felt a little Zenoscope-y with me, which if you know me, I don't tend to like those Zenoscope comics. Every once in a while they're good. It felt like that. So I'm still a little on the fence. I want to read another issue before I decide if this is worth us buying. By us, I mean the rest of you. It's okay. I don't know. The story just felt a bit all over the place, and there were times where I was like, what are they going for with this dialogue? Like, what are they trying to express here? Because it felt like the main character says something, the demon like finishes her sentence, and I was like, does that make sense? Like it's kind of works. So I'm not entirely sure where they're going with this. So it's an iffy book. Come pick it up. If you like Zenoscope, maybe you'll dig this. Come pick it up, thumb through it, decide if you like it. I'm on the fence for that one. Next is a book I absolutely love this week. Older, Tolibao and Nalty, and I got to tell you, this is another one that was almost my indie pick of the week, and that's the IDW Star Wars Adventures, Star Wars The High Republic Adventures. Now, the Star Wars Adventure lines are still on IDW. They're not on Marvel. And they tend to be aimed at younger kids, younger audience. And for this story, it makes sense because this is the High Republic Padawans. And they're kind of awesome. When they decide to do something, they all work together in a rather Jedi way. And, there's a couple of them that stand out. And it felt like a kid's take on the High Republic, which we were only one issue deep. But both comics feel like proper, like what I wanted in a Jedi story. So great showing. As far as the number one goes, I'd say don't skip this. Rush out and pick it up. It was fun. It was a great comic. Honestly, I was kind of blown away. And here's another great comic, Star Wars: The High Republic. This is Scott Anindito, Morales, and Leone. And this is Marvel. So this issue in particular, the first one opened up with a Padawan sort of becoming a knight. Her master losing an arm, but it didn't matter because he was Trandoscan, so he can just grow back another arm. That's the lizard kind of race of the Star Wars universe. There were a couple other twists. Yoda's involved, young Yoda's involved. So I was really intrigued by that story. This one is another story that centers around, the Jedi are trying to figure out why a Hutt was killed with poison, along with everyone in his I guess council it would be. So that's an intriguing story. And a lot of Jedi in this have to do some sort of inventive ways to handle stuff. And there's a pair of Jedi twins in this story that I think they're sort of connected mentally. But it's a really sort of fun story. So if you were missing Jedi overload in your Star Wars, this is it. And it's good. It's actually really good. So we've got it on our shelves. Next is my Marvel pick of the week. Cates, Coelho, Albertov, and of course, we're talking about King in Black Venom. Now, Venom has been such an amazing story. Donny Cates, I shouldn't just say Cates, Coelho, Albertov, Stegman, everyone tied to the Venom brand right now has done a phenomenal job. But this King in Black story is absurdly cool. Now, we know Eddie Brock, Venom himself has died. His son might be the key to stopping Null. Thor last issue actually took a sword and might be dead from Null. At least he's going to be nullified, but he might be dead. And a lot of the Marvel books seem to stem on Null gathering up swords, which has a very what was the House of X swords challenge? Swords of X? What was it? X of Swords? It has a very X of Swords feel. Like Null seems to be interested in power swords. That came from the Black Light issue. But yeah. But a couple issues back, we did see Eddie Brock in the afterlife, he thought, but it turns out it's a hive. It's a hive where all the symbiotes, people who wielded the symbiotes go. And being there, we got to see Grendel, which goes all the way back to the beginning of Kate's run with Venom. And we got to see my man, Agent, I guess you can't really call him Agent Venom anymore because he's anti-Venom, right? Agent Anti-Venom? Flash Thompson. And this picks up with them trying to figure out how to get Eddie reborn. Like that was the plan a couple issues ago. So yeah, it's great. It's awesome. This King of Black stuff is so addicting. It's bleak. It's dark. It's messed up. Null is probably one of the worst villains that I never knew existed. And I'm loving seeing the Marvel Universe struggling to handle it. Handle a villain that brought 3 Celestials to the party, nullified a boatload of Omega and Beyond Omega mutants, and then ripped Sentry in half. Like, this is a problem all around. So again, why aren't the Avengers comics doing King in Black? I'm still confused by this. Like, I'm liking the Phoenix stuff. But this is
like the guy that says swap issue 45.
right. I do know that a lot of them right now are down for the count, but some of them are still in play.
Issue 45, the cover is literally Blade, Namor, and Dracula leading like a vampire army.
Huh.
45 is a King in Black Avengers.
Okay. Well, finally we're getting it, but it's just weird timing, dude. So yeah. Okay. So again, though, this Venom issue is outstanding. It's awesome. It's fun. It's inventive. It's Donny Cates adding to the Venom mythos. It's King of Black, a really dark, bleak villain with a really dark, bleak problem for the Marvel Universe. It's outstanding. It's my pick of the week, and it should really come as no surprise. It's usually Venom or Immortal Hulk when it comes to Marvel, but. Next is Burnham and Burkham, and this is Transformers Beast Wars. Now, Cam, you like Beast Wars?
Yes, it was one of my favorite shows.
One of his favorite shows. I never watched Beast Wars, ever. I watched the OG Transformers. That was my jam. I never got into Beast Wars. I don't know why. I even watched like Transformers reboots, like the other cartoons that came after. Never got into Beast Wars. Can't figure. So this is the Beast Wars origin story. I'm sad to say there's not a lot of new stuff in here. This feels exactly like how I think the OG Beast Wars started. Like that's pretty much what it is. If I'm wrong, well, somebody else is going to have to correct me because I didn't watch the old Beast Wars cartoons. Was I bored? No, had a good time. It seems like it's reminiscent of the original sort of Transformers origin. The art was really, really cool, actually. I liked the art quite a bit and wanted to know more by the time I got to the end of it. So it's a good Transformers story. It's just not one I'm familiar with. It is what it is. Next is Ewing, Bennett, Jose, Bravo, and Mounts. Usually my other pick of the week. Not this week. It's great. Don't get me wrong. That's Immortal Hulk. Ah, man. So the last issue introduced a team that I don't know all that well. Do you remember the name of this team? Cam, you didn't really know this team either. It introduced a team that they were going to use to fight the Hulk, and I didn't know these characters very well. They're actually a criminal team that's sort of been weaponized.
Really?
But yeah, I was not versed on the team at all. Meanwhile, Joe Fixit, the Gray Hulk, who is normally in Grey Hulk form, is now in human form. Banner is broken. Banner has been dragged to hell by the leader, and most of the Gamma has been removed from the Savage Hulk. So he's skinny and he's very childlike right now. He's really, really broken mentally. So Joe Fixit, the Grey Hulk in human form, has to be the toughest of the two, which is weird to see. He handles everything and he does it really well. But I love Joe Fixit for that reason. Like, he will do the necessary evil that needs to get done. So that's what you get in this issue. There is a lot of twists and turns and surprise ending, but all these endings are always like, there's a reason why the Immortal Hulk is the best horror comic on our shelf. You flip to that last page and you're just like, that's what you get here. The art is amazing. These covers are so brilliant. Yeah. So don't skip these. It's a great comic. It's not my pick of the week this week because Venom came out and it was outstanding. It's a close second for Marvel. Next is Star Wars, Operation Starlight, Last Hope. Now, this is Soule, Balsadua, and Rosenberg, and this centers around, well, the time between Empire and Jedi Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. How am I combining movies that are like staples of my childhood? I don't know. Luke is running around with a Sentinel lightsaber. We don't get a lot of that in this issue. What we do get is, well, get this, guys. Are you ready? C-3PO has hatched a plan, which is mind-blowing. That's been going for a couple issues. Lobot is being used to speak an ancient dead language tied to a droid. And a certain Dameron parent, two of them, in fact, are in play, flying with a new squadron that I've never heard of before called the Starlight Squadron. Yeah, they were in the last issue, too. So, and the Starlight Squadron is actually pretty awesome. They have quotes that when other people say, "May the Force be with you," they reply with, "Stay bright, Starlight." So I kind of dig it. Like, it's been pretty awesome. And it's weird to see, like, there are some brutal scenes here. Like, Lando, I got to tell you guys, if you're a Lando fan like I am, let's just say his betrayal didn't just end there, I don't think. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here, and if you really like the OG original Star Wars, trust me, don't skip this stuff. It's amazing, really good. Another book that was kind of almost my pick of the week, but I'm sorry, that King of Black stuff is just too good. Two more books, guys. Next is the Valentine's Day special of Vampirella. Yeah, okay. The art is good. The story is, well, okay. There was an apocalypse, sort of, and Vampirella cut a deal with the devil to save mankind. But, of course, she's going to backstab the devil because, I don't know, these are... these Vampirella stories, I feel like I'm saying the same thing. It's usually Vampirella and an apocalypse and saving people. That's it. There's another excuse for it. I don't know. If you read Vampirella, you got to tell me, do you read Vampirella for the story or do you read Vampirella because Vampirella is kind of hot? I don't know. Just explain these to me because they're just not my jam. It's okay. We'll have it on our shelf if you want it. If you need a Valentine's Day special with a little bit of vampire-y, that's right it. Next is a book that I kind of knocked me off my socks, actually. This is Eschenbach, Level, and Chiron, and this is Chained to the Grave. Now, there is a lot to unpack with this one. It centers around a guy being brought back from the dead, but it seems like he's brought back from the dead multiple times, and he's not quite sure why. And the writer doesn't fully explain that. There's more to this. He does get brought back, and it turns out like, well, there's hidden gold that's in play. There's a couple betrayals, and it takes place in the Wild West. And he's literally chained to a grave. So, okay, he's dragging around a grave that he's chained to. It feels a little Solomon Grundy-ish at times. But the story was fun. The twists were kind of shocking. Eventually, when he figured out who betrayed him, what he did was, well, pretty messed up. And I don't think I would ever do that same thing in that situation. But it was kind of cool. the twists were fun, and I wanted to know more. So again, almost my indie pick of the week right here. Chained to the Grave was a fun opening, but I do tend to like cowboy stories, and this is weird because like while it is a cowboy story, the art at times was like bright Technicolor type stuff. It wasn't like just pale, faded hues with like orange lenses on it that feel like the old west. It was a bright and colorful story and pretty weird, and I want to know where it's going. So Chained to the Grave, good showing, guys. Pretty fun story right there so far. And that's our show for this week. I don't know what else to tell you other than come pick up your books. We will be wearing masks. I'm not wearing a mask right now, so the deaf community can read my lips. I'm sorry, but the second I'm done with this, I'm going to put a mask on. Be safe. We love y'all, and we'll see you next week. End stream. End stream. Save. Oh, I forgot to end this one. Sorry, guys. Don't.